I started doing I like accidentally quit everything in the middle of another stream, and then when I restarted it, this is what I was looking at. So I was like, "What the hell is happening?" It was yesterday. Um, so yeah, yeah. It actually like I'm pretty into it, all things considered. All right, so I need to find my AWS Authenticator account. Let's do that. Seven. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Okay. So we are in, and let's see. For some reason, it's telling me that I'm offline on Twitch, despite the fact that I'm definitely not. Um, let's see here. Weird. It says I'm offline, but I'm definitely not offline. I don't know. It's here. Will you do me a favor real quick? Just go over to twitch.tv/jlangsdorf and let's make sure that it's actually showing up. All right, cool. So, oh, and it just switched over for me. I think maybe just somebody had to look at it first. Cool. So then we're ready to rock and roll. So the thing I was going to start with is I was just going to start a new new Gatsby site. We're just going to make it the absolute default here, so I'm not going to change anything in it. But it'll give us something to deploy. And let's see here. While I'm waiting for that to install, I'm just going to send out a quick tweet. Let's see. Can I spell? All right, we are streaming and it's announced. Okay, so we're there. We've got an AWS test, and we will just make sure that that works the way that I'm expecting it to. Okay, so this is going to be the site that we deploy. So where do we start? Talk me through it, man. All right. Okay, so I guess while we're waiting for that to install, you can tell me a little bit about, because this is something it's pretty much brand new, like within the last couple of months. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah. So it looks like it's installed. Okay. I love the ASCII art. Mm-hmm. Okay. Amplify configure. And do I need to pass any arguments here? Okay. Okay. And then yeah, I'm Portland, Oregon, so let's go US West. Okay, hold on one second, because I just heard that we can't hear the audio here. So let me copy this.
Sure.
Copy. And then let's go back here, and I'm going to paste it. Okay, so can people hear you now? Do you want to?
Yes, I'm checking to see if anyone can hear me.
Okay. Good now. All right, cool. So it looks like we've got audio for you, and
Sweet.
I have to apologize because now I have to make you say all of that shit again. So
it's all good. So basically, we kind of like went over like what the CLI is and what Amplify is. So Amplify was released as a client library at the end of last year, and then we released the CLI just a couple of weeks ago. And really, the organization that I work with in AWS is centered around making the user experience for front-end developers easier, and basically enabling front-end developers to build full-stack apps and kind of move further up the stack by taking advantage of some of these managed services that we're going to kind of look at today. But really, we're going to be looking at mainly hosting. But one of the more popular ones that we've seen lately is authentication, and also the GraphQL API service, which is AppSync. So the CLI essentially is kind of like a Rails for serverless apps. You can create and manage your services directly from your command line. So it's kind of like focused to front-end developers.
Okay, cool. And so what we've done so far is I installed the Amplify CLI using npm install global at aws-amplify/CLI. And after that, I ran just Amplify and did that so that I could see what was available in here. And now we're configuring it. So far I've run Amplify configure. That took me over to the AWS console to make sure I was logged in. And I've chosen US West 2 because I'm in Portland, Oregon. So we are now deciding what the name of my user is. And it looks like I specified Amplify. Is that an acceptable thing to do?
That sounds good. Yeah, go for it. So this is going to open up the console and it's going to have like a preset configuration for the user. Okay. So really all you have to do is just accept all the defaults. It's basically going to create a new user in your IAM, which is the identity and access management part of AWS.
Okay.
And it's going to give it programmatic access, which is basically access from other APIs, but not like a username login to the dashboard.
Okay.
So, and it specified the username that you did there earlier. So you can go ahead and click next.
Amplify programmatic access, which I unchecked and then rechecked. So.
And then it's gonna default to administrator access, which basically allows the CLI to create any service that you need. This is a pretty good choice for the CLI because it does so much. This is kind of like a way to not limit yourself from the CLI. If you really were worried about some type of user that's going to be using the IAM user you're about to create, and you don't want them doing certain things, you can actually do more fine-grained control here.
Okay.
But typically, people just use administrator access.
Okay.
So you can click next here. And then this is just kind of a review, I think, of everything. So you can just accept that by creating the user.
Got it.
And this gives you two things, the access key ID for the new user and the secret access key. Mm-hmm. This is only given to you once. So you can either save it, like, and keep it somewhere in that CSV if you'd like. But I'll also show you where this is going to be stored locally, because we're going to actually be using this to set up the CLI anyway. So you can copy the access key ID to the clipboard and then jump back to the command line.
Copy to the clipboard. And I'm back to the command line. I've completed the user, so I'm going to hit enter.
And now you can just paste that there. And then you can do the same with the secret access key.
Okay. Let me pull this off screen for all you looky-loos. All right, so I've got that. I'm going to hide it again. I'll put it back on the screen. And then we'll go in here.
And when you paste it, it's going to show it too, just
in
FYI.
Plain text. Okay.
Yeah, as you're doing. I mean, you can, once you hit enter, I think it's going to actually hide some of it.
Yeah, it obfuscated a little bit. Okay.
So now it's basically configured a new user, and you can kind of set a local name. So if you want to set the local name the same as the username, that, you know, a lot of times makes sense. So you can kind of know.
So, like, call it Amplify.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Okay.
And then you should be good to go.
We got it.
So now the user's set up and your Amplify configuration is done. You only have to do that the first time you install the CLI. That's just like a one-time thing. Mm-hmm. And now that the CLI is configured, you can start creating new projects.
Okay,
cool. So do you want to go ahead and add a new project?
Yeah, so what I did to get us ready is I set up a Gatsby site. So this is just a default starter. And so if we run this, there's not much to it. It's exactly what you would get by running Gatsby new, because that's what I did to get it. And once this starts running, we pop this open, and this is what we're going to deploy to AWS. So let's go ahead and get this. Oops, here. All right.
All right. So to create the Amplify project, you can run Amplify init.
Net?
Init, I-N-I-T.
Init.
Yep.
And you would do this from the project folder that you're...
Right, from like within the directory. So like right within that first layer of the directory, I guess you'd say.
Okay. So I've got Amplify init. And I use Visual Studio Code. It's a JavaScript app. And it's a React, or do I want React app, or what I call it? Like,
I guess you want React. We need to add a Gatsby choice there, actually.
Yeah, that'd be great. So we go React.
But yeah, React. Okay, yeah. So the source directory, it is source, right, for Gatsby?
It depends on what we're talking about. So is this is there going to be a build command?
Yes, but for the source, this is more like where is your main code going to be, like that as you're writing it, your development code.
The development code will be in source. Once it gets built, like what'll run from something like S3 would be in public.
Okay, cool. So yeah, choose source, SRC here.
Okay.
And then this is going to be public. There you go. Gatsby develop maybe, or
what is it? It's
serve maybe. I don't know.
npm run. It's Gatsby serve.
All right. Yeah. So now it's going to ask you what profile you want to use, and we only have one profile. So if you choose yes, it should give you that new Amplify profile.
Okay. Amplify.
All right. So this is basically going to go ahead and create this this new project locally, but it's also going to go ahead and create a couple of roles for you in your AWS account that you don't really have to worry about. It's just kind of going to have everything configured for you there, but it's also going to kind of create a local configuration that's going to be maintained by the CLI. Mm-hmm. And you'll see after this is done running, you should have a couple of new files. If you do ls-a within the source, within the main directory of the app.
Oh
You
yeah, I've
should
got
see a
an
dot amplify RC.
Yeah, so let's take a look at that. What did it show me, or what did it create?
Yeah, let's check it out. This is basically a lot of boilerplate that is maintained by the CLI, so you never really have to touch this. This is just stuff that your project needs to do certain things, I guess you'd say.
Okay. So this is just basically like giving me the info that I would need to like get in here, right? So if I was going to do this myself, I would need to configure this.
Well, yeah. I mean, typically you never have to touch that file. Actually,
okay. Cool.
There is another thing that was created.
Okay.
That is the Amplify directory. At least I think there is.
Am I in the right? I'm in the wrong folder. Let me close this.
Okay.
Don't save that. And let's just open this one. Yeah. All right. Okay, cool. So now we have a Amplify directory.
Yes. So this is also something that's maintained by the CLI that kind of gets updated as you start adding and updating services. There is one exception though, like within that Amplify folder, when you start building your GraphQL application and you start building like your Lambda functions and things like that, you can actually update the Lambda functions and the GraphQL schema and your GraphQL resolvers and stuff from that Amplify folder. And basically the workflow is something like you create your service locally, and then if you have an update, you change whatever you need there, and then you save it, and then you run Amplify push, and it updates it in your account.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
So, but for right now, we don't really have any services.
So are these going to run, will this run on my machine, or does it run on AWS?
It will do either, depending on which command, depending on what exactly we're doing.
Okay.
So it'll do some of each.
Okay. Yeah. So my question, I guess, would be if it's going to run this on the server, we would need to do a global install of the Gatsby CLI. So just figuring
right. Yeah. If you don't have Gatsby installed, you might want to do that.
Well, I have Gatsby installed, but will my AWS account? Will it know to do
that? Yeah. You don't have to worry about that. Okay, I see what you're saying. No, that's going to be anything that you need is going to be installed for you and taken care of for you.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, you don't have to worry about installing anything on your AWS account. All that's handled.
So we have created this account.
Okay, cool. So now you can start adding features. So if you haven't like already gone over, I don't think we've already gone over all the features, but the one we're going to look at today is like hosting. So you can like host your app, but there's also serverless functions, which are like AWS Lambda functions for AWS. And then there's GraphQL APIs, REST APIs, authentication, analytics, and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
But so if you want to like add our first service to be hosting would be like, of course, to make the most sense, you can run Amplify add hosting.
Just like that?
That's it. Yeah. And there's two different ways you can do this. You can either do dev or prod. Prod with CloudFront actually takes like a long time. I would say like 5 minutes or something like that. For this screencast, we might want to go with dev for now because it's just a faster process. But this is actually still one of the longer builds, so it might take about a minute or so. But it basically is going to give you two options to deploy your app for the first time. And then so it's giving you a bucket name option, and I'm not sure, but it may not allow you to use dashes, but try to see if it does.
Let's see what it does. It didn't complain.
Okay, cool.
Index doc for the website, that's going to be public.
If it's inside a folder, it's going to find it automatically. So if you want it to just work properly, you don't even need to use the path. You can just say index.html.
Got it. Error doc, I don't.
Yeah, if you don't have an error doc, yeah.
And then I publish.
That's it. Yeah. Well, so Amplify Publish is going to go ahead and so that's kind of going to, every time you do either a create, update, or a delete, it's going to prompt you to ask you if that operation is the right operation, basically here.
Okay.
So this is going to create the S3 bucket in your account, as well as everything that you need, like to go along with the hosting,
okay.
A URL and everything like that. It's going to be generated for you. And then it's also going to build the project locally and then upload it to your S3 bucket.
Very cool.
And then it also should maybe open the URL in your account. I mean, in your browser. And really, like, this is something like, as far as hosting is concerned, we're actually doing a lot of stuff around making the whole like process of hosting, and also getting your custom domain, and also doing continuous integration and linking it up with GitHub and stuff. So we have a lot of stuff that we're working on, but essentially what we're going to do now, just as is, it's going to go ahead and kind of get your app launched into a way that you can actually go ahead and like launch it live and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can actually add a custom domain by using Route 53, which is like Amazon's GoDaddy type of service almost,
and
where you can add domains and stuff.
Would I do that through the Amplify CLI, or do I do that through the AWS
Not
console?
Not yet, unfortunately.
Okay,
you would have to go into the console, and you can just reference this S3 bucket basically.
And so somebody in the chat has asked, is the intention here to be like a Netlify competitor?
No, not really. I would say Netlify has its own benefits and its own niche, I guess you would say, and its own niche, whatever. I would say that what we're doing along the lines of like things that Netlify is doing that are like similar, like they have innovated in some really interesting ways, and we're basically kind of taking some of those ideas and adding them to our existing set of tooling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know like how I would differentiate what we're doing from what they're doing, but I would say that like everything that we do is focused on a couple of things: scalability and security. So that's kind of like really what we're worried about.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it else, I think the thing that I'm seeing here is that, what you're doing is almost just kind of taking something that existed for a long time. You've like S3 and CloudFront and Route 53, they've all been around forever.
Right.
So what you're doing is you're taking something that has been historically very difficult, which is setting up S3, getting that S3 bucket hooked up to a CloudFront bucket, and then pointing a custom domain to it with Route 53. You're turning that into a, like, what it looks like is eventually going to be almost a one-click install.
Exactly. Yeah, we're really like, our focus is user experience and developer experience. So like, we're anything that we can do to make it a nicer and easier experience, we're abstracting a lot of that mess away that's like associated sometimes with the AWS console.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is super cool because I ran that command. I had my doubts about it being able to pick up a Gatsby site without some finagling, but it looks like it worked because now we are up on S3. It created the Amplify demo and got it up and running. So that's pretty slick, man. That was a good experience. I'm not gonna lie, I had my doubts because I've had a lot of experience working with AWS in the past, and I was a little concerned about how well this was going to go, but it went really well. This is super pleasant.
Cool.
And so now the experience of doing this so let's say I want to do this again, but this time I want to go to production.
Right.
So I would just run exactly the same command.
You can run, I would probably just choose no. You can run amplify configure and then pass in the service. So hosting is like the type of service.
Okay.
And this is going to give you the option of now changing it to production with CloudFront. So,
and I want to specify CloudFront.
Yeah, let's do that.
And I do want to add CloudFront. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Default TTL, we can leave that.
Yeah. You can kind of default unless you have any specific things for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, this is all good. Custom error responses. I'm going to not configure custom error responses. Or do I want to do that?
No, you don't have to do that for this purposes of this.
Okay. And then we've already configured publish, right? So I can just do done, or do I need to change publish too?
You can do it. Go ahead and do done.
Okay. And so now
and then you can do amplify publish. Yeah. It
Okay.
should now give you an update as an operation.
S3 and
Now,
CloudFront update.
yeah, so this is, again, when you're doing CloudFront, this might take 5 minutes or so, just FYI.
Yeah, well, we've got 5 minutes left in the stream.
Okay,
So
cool.
while we're waiting for this to happen, what I'd love to do is just kind of hear what's next for Amplify. Like, what are you working on now? What are you most excited about that's coming down the pipeline for this CLI?
So really, we have a very, very intense like flow and plans for the CLI and for Amplify in general. It's one of the really like main focuses of our group over the next over this foreseeable future. Unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that we work on, we're not really allowed to kind of like talk about it as far as like specifics are concerned before anything is launched.
Sure.
But we have a lot of interesting stuff that we're doing. A lot of it is around, again, making front-end developers more efficient by allowing them to build full-stack apps using their current skill set. That's kind of like the most concise way I can say that, like what we're doing. So if you remember when like Rails first came out, it kind of opened up like a new paradigm of development for as far as developer efficiency is concerned. I think we're at the point in the cloud where there's so much capability, but there's also a lot of complexity there. Yeah. So if you want to kind of take advantage of a lot of this stuff, you have to be very like specialized, and you have to know a lot about a certain thing, and it takes a lot of time. I think we're at the point now where we're able to abstract away a lot of that complexity, and we're doing that within our org. We're trying to do that within the CLI and within Amplify in general. So like anything that people would like to do that has been hard to do in the past, we're basically making it easier to do. So I would say one of the most successful things that we've done along those lines is AppSync. It's a managed GraphQL service that's getting a lot of adoption, and it's almost like you could think of it, if you've ever used Firebase, how Firebase is like a managed data service. AppSync is a managed GraphQL service, and really the main benefits you get from AppSync in particular is you're not tied to a specific data source or a database implementation. You can use any data source that you like. So you can use if you like NoSQL, or if you like SQL, you can choose whatever type of data source that you like. But you can also use things like Lambda functions. And the Lambda functions, if you've ever worked with serverless in general, they're really, really awesome, and they're pretty powerful. So you can basically have a query from your GraphQL API that hits a Lambda function and does a bunch of crazy things, and then comes back and just serves you a typical GraphQL response with the result of that Lambda function. So you can do a lot of really, really advanced stuff pretty easily. Like I'm doing a talk tomorrow the day after tomorrow at the Chicago JS conference, kind of going over some really crazy things that GraphQL can do. And if you go to my GitHub repo, you'll see two new repos or my GitHub account, you'll see two new repos that I created that I'm going to be kind of demoing.
Same as Twitter?
Yeah, github.com/Dabit3. I'm doing about 4 or 5 demos, but I have 2 up on GitHub. The first one, actually click on my projects, my repos. So scroll down, the web translator and the image recognition.
Okay, which one should I open?
Either one. So this is an AppSync app that takes text input, allows you to choose the language you'd like to translate it to, and then translates the text to that language, and then takes the translated text and synthesizes that to speech, and not only into speech, but also in the correct dialect. I mean, the correct like dialect, I guess you'd say, or like, you know, when you go somewhere and someone like actually sounds like they're from there. Yeah. So you get it translated into that, and then that response gets turned back to you in an MP3, and that's done through a GraphQL query and a Lambda function.
Cool. So basically what's happening then is you defined a GraphQL schema and then your AppSync schema knows to send whatever the query is back to the Lambda. And then at the time that the query is executed, you are generating the speech to text or text to speech, and then returning an MP3 all in kind of one fell swoop.
Yeah. So essentially you're kind of, we're now treating the GraphQL API as almost like an API gateway. And you're passing in, like, the two arguments that we're passing into the query are the sentence that we'd like to be translated, and then the code for the language. So, like, for instance, Portuguese might be something like PE or something like that, and then the sentence. And then that goes through the GraphQL resolver for the request. So the request resolver sends that to a Lambda function. The Lambda function actually does all of the work. So yeah, this is a lot of code on the app.js, but you can check it out. Actually, I'm not sure if this one has that much code.
Yeah, but looks pretty
the interesting stuff is actually happening in the Lambda function. If you want to open that after we look through this real quick.
Yeah, where is your Lambda?
It should be, so check into source maybe. No, go back maybe. So scroll down. I think I might just have pasted it in there. Towards the bottom. Okay, yeah, so that's the Lambda function. So this is actually everything that's going on here. So in the event argument there in exports.handler, that is the GraphQL query object. So the event has two arguments since I passed in two items. So it'd be like the code and the sentence.
Yeah.
So we create an object using the code and then the sentence.
Oh, and then this is slick, man. That's very cool. I didn't know that Poly existed. I'm really far behind on all the the natural language processing AI stuff. Like, I just haven't had any projects that made sense to work with it on, but this looks so approachable.
Yeah, it's like literally, like, I think, I don't know, 40 lines of code or something like that, or 30 lines of code. And this is actually the only real work that's being done. Like, everything else is just handling like requests and responses on the client.
Yeah, so that's pretty amazing. So it looks like we're running out of time. I have another meeting that I've got to jump over to.
Sure.
So I'll just tweet out this URL once it finishes. And in the meantime, man, thanks so much for taking the time to walk through this with me, and like, congrats on building a really user-friendly API. That was or a CLI, because that was actually pleasurable to use, which is not typically something I would associate with working with AWS's tools. So good job there.
Anytime, man. I enjoyed it. I love talking about this stuff. So if you ever want to do it again, just hit me up. I'd love to do it.
Yeah, we'll do. We can maybe do some more of this stuff. But yeah, we appreciate you taking the time, and we'll do one of these again in the future.
All right, sounds good.
All right, see you later.
Later, everyone.